What's going on YouTube? I'm Nick the Tutor, and this channel is dedicated to improving your SAT, ACT, and AP scores. Now today, we're going to be talking about some specifics on ACT science. I'm going to reveal to you the secrets that I know that will improve your score. Now, let's get into them. Now, number one, now you may not know this about the ACT science, but there are different types of passages and you need to know what they are. These are the passages. There are three types: data representation, which would be mostly graphs, charts, and pictures. You have research studies. Those are the ones where you have study one, study two, and you have a bit of a comparison between what was done. And then you have competing viewpoints. That's where they give you 2 or 3 students or scientists, and they're giving different opinions on a scientific topic. Some opinions may be correct, some may be totally incorrect, but you have to evaluate the opinions and answer questions about them. Now, those are the three types. Knowing that is important because we're going to vary our approach depending on the type of passage. All right, guys, my second tip is very simple. You need to mark up the passage. So many students go through the entire test for the SAT or the ACT without writing a thing on the page. It's just insane. If you underline, if you star certain things, if you point certain things out to yourself that you need to remember, that can really help you with time management and it can really help you with focus. So I greatly recommend that you draw, underline, scratch out, whatever you need to do to help you with focus and help you with answering the questions. All right, number 3, besides knowing the different types of passages, you have to know the different types of questions. Similarly to there being consistent passage types, there's going to be consistent question types. Now, a lot of them may be simply just picking out numbers on charts and graphs. Those are probably on the easy end. You're going to also have relationship-based questions where you're going to be asked to evaluate a relationship. Does something increase? Does something decrease? Is one thing less than something else? Is it greater than something else? A lot of that has to do with the data as well. You're also going to be asked some questions that relate to specific facts or rules that are mentioned in the passage. And the last question type has not only increased in frequency on the ACT, but has definitely become more prevalent on the test in general, and that is scientific facts and scientific knowledge. They're actually asking more questions than ever about basic scientific facts, understanding pH scale, understanding cells, understanding maybe the basics of DNA or genetics. They're asking more questions than ever on those topics, so make sure you know them. All right, point number 4, you have to refer back to the passage. One of the big mistakes that students make is that they try to do everything from memory, and I get it. That's probably based on time, right? I don't have a lot of time to do this. What do I do? If they are asking you about a graph or a chart, just make sure you go back. That's going to help you be more accurate. It's also going to help you better digest the passage for later questions. And I think overall, it helps you with your understanding of what's going on in the section, which helps your score. All right, point number 5, and this relates to some of the more difficult questions where they ask you to basically infer what's going to happen based on a relationship. Trends will continue. So if you see a graph that's trending in a certain direction from day 1 through 10, if they ask you about day 11 or day 12, you would assume that that trend would continue unless, of course, there's some information that tells you otherwise. Now, a lot of students look at those questions and say, Nick, where am I supposed to get this answer from? This graph only goes up to day 10. Why are they asking about day 11? Well, they're asking you to use your brain to assume or just kind of determine that based on this relationship, I will have a certain value on day 11 or day 12. So just keep that in mind. Point number 6, you must master the timing of the ACT science. It is difficult, and I'm going to break it down for you right now. If there are 6 passages, you have 5 minutes and 50 seconds per passage. If there are 7 passages, you have 5 minutes per passage. You must remember that, and you also must check. When you're doing the test, you want to know, do I have 7 passages? Do I have 6? Casual observation, the test is trending a little bit more towards 6 than 7, but they could mix it up, and they have been throwing curveballs on recent ACTs. I think because of the coronavirus issue, they're, scrounging for whatever test they come up with, and that is why we're getting a little bit of irregularities on the exam. So make sure you pay attention to that. All right, point number 7, there will be some commonly used scientific terms on the exam. You do want to familiarize yourself with those terms. This is going to include, scientific jargon, independent variable, control, Bunsen burner, so on and so forth. Like, you need to know some basic scientific tools. They actually asked a question, I remember, from a specific test where They asked about what an electron microscope was. A lot of students didn't realize what that was because it said electron. Come to think of it, guys, there's a question from a few years ago where they asked about a specific type of microscope as the correct answer. A lot of students were thrown off by that. So make sure that you know some of these basic scientific facts, and that will help you on the test. Now, that said, guys, if you do look at a passage and there are a bunch of terms that you don't know, this is invariably going to happen on the ACT Science. You have to push past it. Obviously, knowing all the terms, knowing exactly what's going on in the studies is going to help a ton. By the end of the day, you still have to push through when you're, a little bit confused about it, and just kind of grind through that and keep it moving so you can get the test done and try to obtain the right answers. Now, a lot of you are probably asking me, Nick, do I have to read the passage on ACT Science? The answer to that is yes, guys. I really believe you should read the passage and try to generally digest what's going on. That said, you do not need to understand or, comprehend every single piece. This is not reading comprehension. You do not have to become obsessed with the passage, and the written part of the ACT Science, but you do want to read it. If you are running out of time, of course, you will skip that step and go straight to the questions. But if you do have the time, you really should try to digest it, and I'll explain why. There's a certain question and a certain trick question on almost every single passage that you need to know about. The last or second to last question on most of the basic passages you're talking about, the first passage is a data representation, and there's 6 questions. They're not all going to be easy. The first 5 will probably seem easy and straightforward, but then they throw you the curveball. There's going to be a curveball typically at the end of each science passage. One hard question that asks you to establish an understanding of some kind of relationship that's a little bit confusing. They might use a double negative. They might ask you to look at chart 1 and move over to graph 1 and really try to comprehend. Make sure to look out for that. Just knowing that that exists will help you so much. Now, like I was saying, guys, in terms of understanding the passage, you don't need to understand every detail, but you need to understand the general idea of the ACT Science passages. I like to think of an acronym. Unfortunately, it has a pretty poor spelling when you really think about it, but you want to understand the purpose of the study. Why were they doing it? The operations that they did, what did they do to complete the study? How did they go about it? What are the generalized outcomes that you can see? Did things increase? Did they decrease? What kind of trends were there? And that is an acronym that you can use in your mind to navigate the passages on the ACT Science. All right, some questions that you may have, I'm going to answer right now. All right, question number 1, you may be thinking, Nick, do I need to be good at science to do well on the science section of the ACT? The answer to that is no. Many students who are competent in reading and understanding graph reading do well on the science. You do not need to be good at chemistry or physics or biology to do well, so do not get discouraged by that. A lot of students say, oh, I don't like science, I don't want to take the ACT. That is wrong. Number 2, you might be asking, if I want to go into pre-med, do I need to do well on the ACT Science? Do I need to score in the high 30s? The answer to that also is no. What you need to do for that is do well in college, do well, and you may obviously want to do well on the ACT. That may help, but at the end of the day, it's important, how you do in biology. If you're going to major in biology in college, that will help you set yourself on the right track. I think the ACT Science section is such a small piece of that I just wouldn't worry about it, but focus on your grades in college, and that will help you get there. Number 3, question you may be asking, a lot of schools have said that ACT Science replaces subject tests. That is a fact. Many schools have developed a policy where you do not need to take SAT subject tests if you take the ACT because they say the science covers that. Look, that's their policy. If that's the policy they have, that's great. Don't worry about it. If they do not have that policy, you will have to do the SAT subject tests. Do I have an explanation for why that policy exists? Not really, but at the end of the day, it does forgive you for doing those tests sometimes, so take advantage of it. You're probably asking me, Nick, what is the best way to pace myself during the section? I would definitely get some kind of watch or an ACT watch. I would practice within the time frame of the test, 5 minutes and 50 seconds for 6 passages, 5 minutes for 7 passages, and make sure you have that down. And your final question may be, Nick, do I have to do the passages in order? Absolutely not. A lot of students do not like doing the competing viewpoints passage, especially if that pops up first. You might want to say that to the end. Get the data passages done first. If you are really, competent in those, you feel strongly on the data passages, do what you feel strongly about first. You do not need to do the test in the order it is given to you on any standardized exam. You want to strategize. You actually want to focus on your strengths first and your weaknesses later. I think that is best policy overall. Build your confidence doing well on things and then address the difficult parts later. If you want more information, more advice on ACT science, other parts of the ACT, check out this video here.